Hello everyone, my name is Sarah and I would like to speak to you today about why I believe it is important to fund mental health services in California. There is an increasing number of incarcerated individuals who have a mental illness. In about 2 out of every 5 people in California are diagnosed. 63% of those who are diagnosed do not receive treatment. To give you a better understanding with a more localized value, we would say 1 out of every 3 people, inmates, in San Luis Obispo County Jail are diagnosed with a mental illness. The cost of criminalizing mental illness is very high. Only about 2% of the budget for health is spent on mental illness right now. According to Legal Analyst Office, it costs about $106,000 annually to house an inmate. It would be more cost effective to treat the inmates who are diagnosed in a psych facility or a crisis center where the ranges would be from about $3,600 to about $8,500 according to the National Association of Mental Illness. To kind of bring that into perspective, I have this mental illness in the criminal justice system. So about 2 million times each year, people with serious mental illness are booked into jails. I work in the jail, and every time they are booked, they are asked a specific set of questions that would give us a more clear understanding of if they were a danger to themselves or to others, and we would progress from there. About 2 in 5 people who are incarcerated have a history of mental illness, 37% in state and federal prisons, and 44% in local jails. So that's 44% in San Luis Obispo County Jail alone. Nearly 1 in 4 people shot and killed by police officers between 2015 and 2020 had a mental health condition, which means our officers are not prepared to deal with mental illness. Like they see it as a criminalization. They don't see it as a disease, which needs to be treated. Suicide is the leading cause of death for people held in local jails. I have responded to calls where an inmate has, had a sheet tied around his neck as a noose, and we had to respond to that and send him out to a psychiatric facility to be treated. 65% of women report having a history of mental illness, almost twice the percentage of men in prisons. In our facility, we have about 3 out of the 4 wings dedicated to males. The prison facility population is very high in male gender. It's very low in the female gender. So they require less housing, but they have a higher rate of mental illness. In the communities, 70% of youth and juvenile justice system have a diagnosis of mental illness. Youth in detention are 10 times more likely to suffer from psychosis than youth in the community. So children, younger adults, or not adults, suffer higher rates of mental illness. About 50,000 veterans are held in local jails. 55% report experiencing mental illness. We do have veterans in the jail. They do experience it, and they are treated if they admit to it. We have one that is in a wheelchair. He used to be a correctional officer at a facility here in San Luis Obispo County. He is treated for mental illness because he has dementia, which, deteriorating mind. He doesn't know where he is. He doesn't know who he is. Sometimes it's a struggle. But we do have other veterans there that need assistance. They need medication. So that's just a little bit of information on the jail itself. So the next thing is suicide is the leading cause of death in age 15 to 29 in the world. So I have a little chart here. It's a little hard to see, but the females are very whited out. But if you look right here, and the highest one, age 20 to 29 years, and it is male. That is the highest rate of suicide in California. Overall, the males are accounted for the largest number, while females only are accounted for a quarter of that number. In 2020, an estimated 3.2 million people planned a suicide. 1.2 million people attempted a suicide. What would help with that is screenings at hospitals and jails to reduce lethal methods. When we bring an inmate into the jail, we screen them for suicidal behaviors, self-injurious behaviors. We ask them a set of questions, and if they respond in a certain way, we decide how to house them, how to place them in a safety cell, to make sure that they're going to be safe for the evening until they can speak to a marriage and family therapist or someone else in a higher level of care. Poverty. People in high areas of poverty are at a high risk for depression. The finances are connected to a issue with mental health. If they cannot afford their home or they're struggling to pay bills, they have a higher risk for depression and thus increases the suicide rate. The CDC estimates 8.7 people below the poverty rate report severe distress. In an article posted in the California Healthcare Foundation, 52% of low-income people said they could not afford mental health care if they needed it. Low income increases the rate of substance abuse, which can co-occur with mental illness. 30.4% of San Luis Obispo County residents reported less than the poverty level in 2019. The problem with that is that psychiatrists are hesitant to screen people for mental illness if they don't have the resources to provide to them. So if there's nowhere to send them, which they can afford or which can be funded, they don't get the treatment for the mental health they need. So my concern and my ending with this is I also suffer from mental illness. I have relied on state funding to direct me and guide me to get the help that I needed. We need more crisis centers, which is some place that I have visited before, where they can see you within a certain amount of time and they can prescribe you the medication to get you started until they can find you current help. There is also a phone number now. I think it's 988. It used to be something different, but it is a crisis hotline where you can call and speak to a trained counselor who can walk you through a crisis, but they cannot prescribe things to you. So I feel that you need to be able to access people who can prescribe medication, who can diagnose, and who can guide you into therapy and further your process into mental health recovery. All right, and that's all that I have. Thank you.